What if I told you that chewing gum could get you fined? Or that simply smiling could be required by law? You'd probably think I'd spent a little too long staring directly at the sun, but as it turns out, both of those things are true. Across the globe, there are ordinary things you probably do every day without a second thought, things that are as natural as, well, smiling, that are completely illegal somewhere else in the world. And I'm not talking about some antiquated, unenforced rule about not tying your goat to a fire hydrant on a Tuesday. These aren't obscure rules buried in dusty law books. Some are still enforced, and others come with consequences that can be shockingly severe. From harmless habits to basic freedoms, today we're uncovering 13 totally normal things that are illegal in different countries. And wait until you hear number 13. It's so absurd it barely sounds real. We're starting our trip around the world in Singapore, a beautiful, efficient nation-state with a bit of an authoritarian streak, and nothing exemplifies that more than their draconian yet strangely effective anti-chewing gum law. That's right, since 1992, chewing gum has been completely outlawed in Singapore. And if you think that sounds like an overreaction, just ask yourself this. Have you seen what gum does to a sidewalk? It's like someone chewed up a rainbow and then spat it out onto public infrastructure. The authorities in Singapore had simply had enough. They were tired of scraping gum off of sidewalks, benches, and worst of all, subway doors, because apparently some people find the urge to stick their gum somewhere truly disgusting, irresistible. So they did what any rational government would do. They banned it outright. Today, importing or selling gum in Singapore is strictly controlled. You can technically get your hands on some therapeutic gum, but only at a pharmacy and only with a prescription. You know, like it's actual medicine. But here's the kicker, if you're caught with gum in Singapore, you could face a fine of up to $100,000 or even jail time. It sounds extreme, but Singapore has built a reputation as one of the cleanest cities on earth, and this law is one of the reasons why. So next time you find yourself reaching for a stick of gum, just picture those pristine Singaporean streets and maybe opt for a breath mint instead. From the squeaky clean streets of Singapore, we travel to a country where cleanliness is, let's just say, not the top priority, North Korea. And while the previous law might have seemed strict, this next one is downright chilling. In North Korea, owning a Bible is not just frowned upon, it's illegal and dangerous. And when I say dangerous, I mean the kind of dangerous that could land you in a forced labor camp for a very long time. See, in North Korea, religion, particularly Christianity, is seen as a direct threat to the regime's power. The Kim family, who have ruled the country with an iron fist for decades, demand complete and utter devotion. Anything that might challenge their authority, including a book that preaches love and compassion, is seen as a threat. And they're not shy about cracking down on it. In 2014, an American tourist was arrested for leaving a Bible in a hotel bathroom. Now this tourist was eventually released after some high-level diplomatic wrangling, but locals caught doing the same thing aren't so lucky. They face labor camps, torture, or worse. The regime works hard to control every aspect of life in North Korea, including what you believe. Just imagine being imprisoned for simply owning a book. Let's shift gears to a slightly more rhythmic offense, shall we? We're heading to Japan, a country famous for its technology, fashion, and yes, its vibrant nightlife. But what most people don't realize is that, until recently, dancing after midnight in Japan was illegal. That's right, cutting a rug past 12 a.m. could land you in hot water with the fun police. This law, as baffling as it may seem, was actually a leftover from the post-World War II era. Back then it was aimed at cracking down on prostitution, which was often associated with dance halls. But as the decades passed, and Japan transformed into the technological and cultural powerhouse it is today, the law remained on the books. And here's the thing, it wasn't just some dusty old statute that everyone ignored. The police actually used it to raid nightclubs. Imagine the scene, the music's pumping, the lights are flashing, and suddenly the police barge in, ready to arrest people for the crime of rhythmic expression. Thankfully, common sense, or at least a sense of how completely ridiculous this law was, eventually prevailed. In 2015, the rule was finally relaxed, much to the relief of club owners and partygoers across Japan. Still, it's a surprising piece of modern history that even many locals didn't know existed. Chapter 4. Speaking of things that are surprisingly illegal, let's talk about love, shall we? More specifically, let's talk about the one day a year dedicated to celebrating love and romance, Valentine's Day. Now I know what you're thinking. Valentine's Day? Illegal? What could be more harmless than overpriced roses and heart-shaped boxes of questionable chocolates? Well, in Saudi Arabia, Valentine's Day used to be completely banned. That's right, forget about roses, chocolates, or even a romantic dinner for two. The religious police in Saudi Arabia saw Valentine's Day as a dangerous Western import that promoted sinful behavior. For decades, florists and shops were forbidden from selling anything red, heart-shaped, or even remotely love-themed in February. And if you thought about defying the ban, well, let's just say that the consequences for spreading a little love were enough to make even Cupid think twice. Businesses risked fines, closures, and who knows what else. Of course, love, as they say, finds a way. Many couples would secretly celebrate in private, away from the watchful eyes of the religious police. And in recent years, the enforcement has loosened considerably, with Valentine's Day decorations popping up more and more. Chapter 5. From the deserts of Saudi Arabia, we're heading to a place where love is always in the air, or at least on the bridges, Venice, Italy. This romantic city of canals and gondolas might seem like a dream come true, but be careful, because even the simplest acts can land you in hot water. Case in point, feeding the pigeons in St. Mark's Square. Now I know what you're thinking. What could be more charming, more whimsical, more Italian than tossing a few crumbs to those iconic pigeons? Well, according to the city of Venice, it's not charming, it's a public nuisance. Back in 2008, the city decided that they'd had enough of the pigeons and their, shall we say, droppings. See, those birds might look cute, but their droppings were eroding the marble statues, covering the church facades, and generally making a mess of one of the most beautiful squares in the world. So they did what any city facing a pigeon infestation would do: they outlawed feeding them. Now, if you're caught tossing even a single crumb to those feathered fiends, you could be fined up to 500 euros. So next time you're tempted to channel your inner Mary Poppins in St. Mark's Square, maybe skip the birdseed and opt for a gelato instead. Chapter 6. From pigeons in Venice, we journey to a land where respect is paramount, and where even the smallest misstep can have serious consequences. I'm talking, of course, about Thailand. Now, Thailand is famous for its beautiful beaches, delicious food, and welcoming people. But there's one thing you absolutely cannot do in Thailand: step on money. And I'm not talking about figuratively stepping on money as in missing out on a good deal. I mean literally, physically stepping on a banknote or a coin. Why is this such a big deal? Well, Thai currency features the image of the king, and stepping on his face is considered a profound act of disrespect. It's a violation of Thailand's lèse majesté laws, which are among the strictest in the world. People have been jailed for simply insulting the monarchy on social media. So, even if you're just trying to stop a coin from rolling away, be careful not to let it touch your foot. Thailand's laws might seem strange to outsiders, but they reflect a deep reverence for the monarchy. Chapter 7. Hold on to your hats, folks, because we're about to dive into the wacky world of Australian legislation. And trust me, when it comes to strange laws, Australia is in a league of its own. We're talking about a law so bizarre, so utterly perplexing that it sounds like it was made up for a Monty Python sketch. I'm talking, of course, about the Great Potato Prohibition of Western Australia. You see, until very recently in the vast, sun-drenched expanse of Western Australia, there existed a law so utterly baffling that it boggles the mind. You weren't allowed to possess more than 50 kilograms of potatoes unless you were a licensed potato dealer. Yes, you heard that right, potatoes. Those humble spuds, the staple food of countless cultures, were strictly regulated in Western Australia. The law, which was enacted in 1946, was intended to control black market farming and protect the potato industry. But in practice, it mostly just led to confusion, mockery, and the occasional awkward encounter with law enforcement over a bag of potatoes. Imagine, if you will, being pulled over by the police and questioned about the weight of your potatoes. It sounds ridiculous, but it actually happened. Thankfully, after years of ridicule, this starchy statute was finally repealed in 2016. Chapter 8. From the potato fields of Western Australia, we're heading to a place that might seem like paradise, but where freedom of religion is anything but idyllic. The Maldives, a chain of picturesque islands in the Indian Ocean, is known for its luxurious resorts, pristine beaches, and crystal-clear waters. But beneath this veneer of tropical perfection lies a harsh reality for those who don't adhere to the majority religion Islam. You see, in the Maldives, practicing any religion other than Islam in public is strictly prohibited. Tourists are generally left alone within the confines of their resorts where they can sip cocktails, soak up the sun, and pretend that religious freedom exists for everyone. But for the locals, it's a different story. They cannot display religious symbols, read non-Islamic texts in public, or celebrate non-Islamic holidays. And the consequences for violating these laws are severe: imprisonment, deportation, and even violence. It's a stark reminder that even in the most beautiful corners of the world, freedom of belief is not a given. Chapter 9. From the Maldives, let's take a trip to a country known for its Higa lifestyle, its delicious pastries, and its surprisingly sensible laws. That's right, we're talking about Denmark. Now, when you think of Denmark, you probably picture cozy cafes, colorful houses, and bicycles whizzing through picturesque streets. But what you might not know is that in Denmark, there's a law that requires you to check under your car before starting it in winter. Why, you ask? Well, it's not because the Danish government has a strange obsession with the underside of vehicles, it's actually for a very heartwarming reason. Cats. Yes, cats. You see, in the chilly Danish winters, cats often seek warmth wherever they can find it, and engine compartments, with their residual heat, can seem like a very inviting place to curl up for a nap. But as you can imagine, a napping cat and a starting engine are not a good combination. So, to protect their feline friends, the Danes came up with this simple yet effective law. It's not strictly enforced, of course, but it reflects a cultural sensitivity toward animals that's truly admirable. From the cat-loving nation of Denmark, we journey to a country where love and marriage are a bit more complicated. The Philippines, a nation of stunning islands, vibrant culture, and warm hospitality, has a complicated relationship with the concept of divorce. In fact, it's one of the only countries in the world, besides the Vatican City, where divorce is illegal. That's right. In the Philippines, if you're married, you're in it for the long haul, whether you like it or not. The only way to end a marriage in the Philippines is through annulment, which is basically like saying the marriage never happened in the first place. But getting an annulment is a notoriously difficult, expensive, and time-consuming process. It often requires proving that one spouse was mentally unfit, that the marriage was fraudulent, or that some other extraordinary circumstance occurred. As a result, many Filipinos remain trapped in loveless, sometimes even abusive marriages with no legal recourse. Chapter 11. From the complex world of Filipino marriage laws, we're heading to a country known for its precision, its punctuality, and its love of quiet time. That's right, we're talking about Switzerland. Now, Switzerland might seem like a country of chocolate, cheese, and stunning alpine scenery, but don't let that fool you. They take their peace and quiet very seriously. So seriously, in fact, that in some apartment buildings, flushing your toilet after 10 p.m. is considered noise pollution. Yes, you heard that right. In Switzerland, even your bodily functions can be subject to strict regulations. Now, it's not like the Swiss toilet police are going to kick down your door if you dare to flush after the designated hour. This is more about common courtesy and respect for your neighbors. The Swiss take their quiet hours very seriously. So, if you find yourself in Switzerland and nature calls late at night, you might want to hold it in, or risk the wrath of your Swiss neighbors. Chapter 12. From the surprisingly strict world of Swiss bathroom etiquette, we journey to a land where even your vocabulary can get you in trouble. We're talking about Canada. Yes, that land of friendly people, maple syrup, and passive-aggressive apologies has a surprising law on the books. In Ontario, Canada, swearing in public parks is illegal. That's right. If you're caught using colorful language in places meant for families and children, you could be slapped with a fine. Now, I know what you're thinking. Canada? The country that gave us Ryan Reynolds and poutine? Surely they can't be serious about policing people's language. But believe it or not, this law is still on the books. A relic of a time when people were a little more sensitive about such things. It's rarely enforced, of course, but it serves as a reminder that even in the most liberal of countries, there are still limits to what you can say in public. Chapter 13. And now, for the grand finale, the most bizarre, the most baffling, the most Italian law on our list. We're going back to Italy, but this time we're not talking about pigeons or gelato, we're talking about something far more sinister frowning. Yes, you heard that right. In Milan, Italy, it is technically illegal to frown in public. I know, it sounds like something out of a dystopian novel where everyone is forced to smile and pretend to be happy all the time. But this law, as absurd as it may seem, is actually a real thing. It dates back to the 19th century and was intended to boost public morale and encourage a more positive atmosphere. Of course, it's not like the Milanese police are going to arrest you for having a bad day. It's not like they're going to demand to see your dental records to make sure you're capable of smiling. But still, the fact that this law still exists, even if it's only in theory, is a fascinating example of how our attempts to legislate happiness can sometimes lead to truly bizarre outcomes. So, there you have it, 13 everyday things that are illegal around the world. If you made it this far without booking a one-way ticket to a lawless island, then congratulations, you're clearly made of stronger stuff than I am. But seriously, as we've seen today, the world is full of unexpected rules, regulations, and laws that can seem downright bizarre to outsiders. What's perfectly legal in your country might be shocking, offensive, or even criminal somewhere else. So the next time you're planning a trip abroad, maybe do a little bit of research on the local laws and customs. You might just save yourself from an awkward encounter with the authorities, or at the very least a hefty fine.